Today we're going to be comparing two manual espresso machines. We have the Flair 58 and we have the Barista edition of the Cafelat robot. I've had this since it came out, so for about 5 months, and I've had this for just shy under of a year, and I've used them both on a regular basis. So we're going to be comparing some of the features, what I like, what I don't like about each of them, and ultimately we're going to compare which one tastes better. Before we do that, I just want to say welcome to Cabean's Coffee Corner. This channel is designed to help you choose the coffee gear you want to purchase to brew with at home. If you could please like and subscribe, that would really help me out a lot as I'm trying to grow this channel. If you're looking at purchasing anything, please use the link below where I'll make a slight amount of commission at no extra charge for you. I also have a link for a free bag of coffee in my description through trade, so you're more than welcome to use that as well. Lastly, I have an Instagram account called Cabean's Coffee Corner. You're more than welcome to follow me there. Alright, let's go ahead and dive into it. So we have the Flair 58 here at $575, and we have the robot at $450. However, if you want to buy the metal hands for the robot, these are 3D printed, but the metal ones are $28. And if you want to buy the self-leveling tamper, which would be this is 3D printed on there. But if not, it's just a straight metal tamper, and that would be an additional $75, bringing this to $548 if basically what it has was not 3D printed. But that's about the value of this package. The Flair can also be purchased without the heating element inside of it, which would drop it down to $485. So I want to go ahead and dive into the features. This is one of the original Flair 58s. They did some slight modifications, which I'll talk about a little bit as we go on here, but I've done all those modifications. There's just a little slight tweak here at the top of the brew chamber. Other than that, it's the exact same as what is currently being released. So with the Flair 58, we have this heating mechanism right here. On this heating mechanism, I have this thing called a switch pot, which basically presses the button for me. But basically, there are 3 light indicators based off of the temperature that you are brewing at. So if all 3 of these are illuminated, that means this brew cylinder is as hot as it can be. It takes about roughly 10 minutes, they recommend, for it to fully heat up, which is not too long in the grand schemes of an actual espresso machine, which takes about 30 minutes to fully heat up all the metal on that. We have a commercial grade 58 millimeter bottomless portafilter, which means all 58 millimeter commercial grade accessories are compatible with this portafilter. We have a tamper, which is a decent size. It's a nice 58 millimeter tamper. However, the finish kind of reminds me of a chalkboard and makes me a little bit uncomfortable. We have this brew cap right here, which basically would allow you to lift up this handle right here, slide this out, turn this, and you can basically slap this little silicone piece on, and then you can fill up your brew chamber here, and that's how you could preheat it if you wanted to do it manually without the electronics. There's no need to do that if you did purchase the one with the electronics. This also fits on top of a Stag EKG, so that makes it a little bit easier and more friendly for people who would like to preheat it if they chose to go the simpler, cheaper route, which I'd highly encourage you. If you have the money, just go ahead and go all out and get it. This little silicone piece sits on top of the brew cylinder in order to fill it up where water won't come out. So basically, you add water, you obviously tamp and grind into the portafilter. You add this puck screen on top of it, which just sits onto the ground like so. You then lock it. Sorry, it's very odd to lock it from this angle. You lock it in there, and then what you're going to do is you're going to just simply fill up this with the lever down, and then you're going to pull the lever up, and that's going to allow the water to go through the machine, and then you're going to press down. And then one thing that you will have to do is when you're done with your shot, you're going to have to pull back up on the handle, switch out the cups, and you're going to have to purge through the water. That's about it for what comes with the 58. Now we're going to move on to the robot. stock what comes with the robot is a package of paper filters, some extra O-rings, accessories, things like that. We have this spouted portafilter, which basically has a silicone piece. It is heavy-duty machine metal that sticks on the bottom there if you want to spread out the coffee like so. You have a portafilter. You have a dispersion screen, and then you have your basket. Now this basket is about 58 millimeters, which basically means this basket is not compatible with 58 millimeter accessories. It's really close, so you can, that almost gets in there, but it's like 57.5 millimeters, which is pretty close. But you cannot use any 58 millimeter accessories with it. So basically you just grind your coffee directly into this, drop your dispersion tamp, drop your dispersion screen, and then what you're going to do is you're going to lift up the handles of the robot like so, and then you're going to lock it into the robot. Like I said, it's a lot easier to do when you're not doing this backwards, and then you're going to simply press down with the hands, and then you're going to lift up, turn out, and then angle it out, and then you are done. On the robot, you are missing this little leather piece that I put on mine. It comes with this little mat here that fits perfectly like this or like that on it, so either way. This is also a nice little mat to go ahead and tamp on if you'd like to. This comes with a pressure gauge that gets fastened to the arm, so it goes right about there. However, I upgraded this and I added this pressure gauge, which is quite a bit bigger in circumference and diameter, and it has this mechanism on the back here. And then we have the self-leveling tamper, which gives you the purpose of, with how deep this basket is, it's easy to basically tamp at an angle. This gives you a little lip here, which makes it's going to fit perfectly every single time. And your bed of coffee grounds will always be level. Now, what I did to test these machines in order to make sure that they were up to par and to compare them side by side is I purchased one of these. This is called the Smart Espresso Profiler. The Smart Espresso Profiler basically gives you statistics charts, which you can find on the App Store. I think it's called Smart Profiler or Smart Espresso Profiler, one of those two things. But basically, it allows you to pull a shot, and it will clock your pressure, your flow rate, your grams per second, both in and out, and your total results. So basically, it allowed me to see that I started at a pre-infusion at 2 bars, and then I jumped up to 7 bars for 15 seconds or 20 seconds, and then I slowly ramped down the pressure, and total time ended out with 36 grams of coffee in 28 seconds. Or however the recipe that I wanted to do. And this basically allows me to duplicate shots. So basically, if I pull a shot with this Flair and I really like the shot, I can do the exact same shot again by following the chart in the graph on here at live time. It also allows me to take this and basically I just unscrew the pressure gauge, put it in, and I read all this on my app. It connects with the Akai lunar scale, so I get accuracy on both the weight and the time, as well as the pressure to replace the pressure gauge. And what I did for this one is I contacted Naked Portafilter, the company that makes this, and they made this gauge for me where I unscrew this piece right here, then I attach this SEP to the bottom of it, and it will allow me to do the same thing. So theoretically, when I pull a shot with the Flair, I can take the exact same recipe and pull it on the robot. This allows me to see how they taste side by side, difference-wise, with the exact same shot. So I did this a numerous amount of times over the past 4 or 5 months to really see the results between them. But before I get into the results and what my findings were using the SEP and using the Akai, I want to go over a couple of the likes and dislikes that I have on each of these machines. Both of these have shortcomings and strengths in each way. I think the price is pretty comparable to them both because I do believe if you do have the robot, you're going to need to do 3 things. You will want the hands, you will want the self-leveling tamper, and you will need to figure out something to do with the gauge. And without figuring out the gauge, you're already at $548 versus the $575. So you're really pretty comparable in price there, even though it looks drastically different from the beginning. I wouldn't recommend going the X route. I think you're just best off doing this, although you will get some good results with the X model if you preheat the chamber well. The nice thing and the pros of the robot is it is super easy to set up, it's super easy to tamp, it's super easy to go, it produces phenomenal shots, and I believe you can get by without preheating anything, which means you can basically just go straight to your kitchen, straight to the robot, and pull a shot with what you have here. There's no preheating, there's no nothing, you just simply add grounds, add water, pull a shot, you're good to go, and the temperature is very well and you get a nice shot at the end of it. However, the gauge was a very frustrating thing to me. When you're pulling a shot and you're looking down at this gauge, it is very, very difficult. You almost have to lean forward and put it backwards to be able to see it. That's why I felt the benefit to add the gauge on the back here, but that was a very expensive upgrade. Granted, I did get the SEP part of it too, which makes it more complicated. The main thing that I don't like about the robot is the fact that it is so uncomfortable to brew. Holding and pressing down on these hands is just a very uncomfortable experience. It's even worse when you don't have the hands. Tamping, brewing, everything is super well. The nice thing is this is a bottomless portafilter, and it's super easy to clean up because I can pull a shot and I can take it apart, and there'll still maybe be a little bit of water in the top there, but I can pour it out in the sink and I don't have to worry about spilling it, and I don't have to worry about purging, and it works super well with that. If you add this and you actually use this, what's going to happen is you are going to basically suck the heat from your espresso. This is straight metal that it's going through, and as soon as it touches this, it cools down the espresso like crazy. So you're going to have to figure out a way to preheat this if you're ever going to want to split a shot. Now moving on to the Flair. The likes that I have about this is obviously the 58 millimeter portafilter, which means I can use any accessory that I have in my kitchen for a 58 millimeter espresso machine. It opens up all the doors to distribution tools, to tampers, to funnels, to all these different things that you may want for it. And even portafilters, you can go out and buy a different portafilter and things like that, and it will work well for the espresso machine. So for example, this is a spouted portafilter that comes with the Rocket Apartamento. And I basically have changed this out, and I've used this for the Rocket Apartamento, and I believe I can use this for the Flair. And there you have it. Perfectly fit, no problems in there, as long as it's the same type of portafilter, which these are pretty standard portafilters inside. I don't believe the ones from La Mazzarocca, whatever, work with it, but nevertheless, having the 58 millimeter portafilter works well. This preheating mechanism is a nice feature. At first, I thought I wasn't going to like it, and there's sometimes that I don't like it. The only reason I don't like it is because simply it has an electronic, and that's another thing that can break, and it's another thing that you have to plug in your kitchen, which if you have an electric grinder, electric kettle, in this, most outlets only have 2 sockets, so that kind of limits you with having to get an extension cable for your kitchen with it. However, the cord is nice, but it does remind me of the Xbox brick that is nice and huge that you have to put with it. This also has the little drip tray here too as well. I love how they fixed the problem where you had to basically take and remove the pressure gauge every single time you brewed. So you typically had to lift up and then take that off, turn this, fill it up with water that way, and then push down. They didn't make it now, so this part can always stay attached, and you just leave it down in this position. The electric part works well, nice and quick. Adding the switch bot was a huge benefit, so then I can just simply set a moment of when to turn it on, and it will turn on for me, so it's ready to go in the morning, and I don't even have to get out of my bed to do so. I did find out that you can leave this on for a long time, and it's not obviously ideal, but I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe Flair left it on for a week to test it, and they didn't have any issues with it. So that is very stable here. I love the comfort of it with the lever here. It's super nice. My con is if you're in a kitchen with cabinets like this, it does not work very well, so I have a dedicated coffee bar where I can just pull the lever up as high as I want with no issues. My main con is the fact that you do have to purge it after every single one. I did notice that it's easy to get a perfect stream of bottomless shots out of the robot than it is the Flair, and I think part of it is the basket. If you see the basket, it's slightly sloped here versus mine is more flat on this one. You can change those out with these with any commercial grade basket that you would like to, anything from VST, Pullman, and like so, all of those will work. Another huge mention is this is the Kaya Lunar scale. This is about $250. It's a really nice scale. It's about the best one you can get. They made this on the Flair to fit the Akai scale, and it does so very well. However, if you slide the Flair in and out, it's kind of annoying that the drip tray is not attached to it anyway. So if you are sliding it out of a cabinet, that is a problem. But on the robot, you have to angle it in sideways there. That is one of the reasons why I put this pad in there, because it was a little bit harder to do with one of these things to make it perfectly level, so I just added this piece of leather in there. And you have to put it angled and make sure you're not hitting the bars to pull a shot. I hope that answers most of the questions on this. So basically, to recap, I don't like how you have to purge. I do like the comfort, and I do like the 58mm accessories and the heating element. Robot, I don't like the pressure gauge. I don't like the comfort of it, but the ease of cleanup so far passes the Flair. This also takes up a little less space on your countertop because width-wise, it's about the same, but length-wise, it's twice as much. But the thing that you have to account for is the arm length of it is actually longer than the Flair's. So this circumference that you have to be able to lift the arms up takes up more space than the Flair does. Alright, now I'm going to answer the question on which one I believe you should buy and why. And I'm also going to answer the question on which one tastes better. And the answer to the one that which one tastes better, I believe, is the Flair most of the time. I think it's because of the control of the heating element and the control of, you can use better accessories to give yourself a better temp. It just tastes better. That's kind of how it boils down. That's not saying that the robot tastes bad. It's actually very, very good. I believe it tastes slightly better than the other Flairs out there outside of the 58, but I don't know if it's worth the extra $150 over the other Flairs. If you did buy these at stock at $450 and $575, I think it would be worth just going for the Flair for the reason of the fact that it is a 58mm portafilter, which does open up a lot of doors, more so than I think a lot of people realize, and the fact that the Flair 58 is more comfortable to use. If I had to continue using this all the time, I don't think I would be that happy with it because of how uncomfortable it was. I used it for an extended period of time, and it was good. It produced good shots. I love the feel of it, but if you have to get high pressure because your grind setting was a little too fine, it's so much harder to do with this, and it feels so uncomfortable to do that it's not really worth it, in my opinion. But it is nice in the small factor. It feels smaller. It looks smaller. If you're trying to put this on luggage, it's way easier to do. So I would pick the Flair over it, unless you have two problems. One, you want to throw this in a bag and you want to maybe bring it somewhere. I think this is going to be the easier one to do. Or two, you are absolutely against electronics. If it is a real problem for you to run 3 cables, and like I said, the cable for this thing is huge. It has a big power brick and it's nice and long, which if you have a kitchen countertop like behind me, you have no place for that cable to go. It's an outlet directly below, versus if you have a dedicated coffee area with a table and you can pull the table slightly against the pull the table slightly out from against the wall, you can drop the cables behind it. That's kind of what I think about it. So if you want to save a little bit of money, but in the grand schemes not a ton, if you want the ease of having no electronics and the quickness of it, you want the ease of cleanup, this is the way to go. If you want comfort, if you want basically comfort and electronics and 58mm accessories, this is the way to go. So overall, they both have their pros and cons. I wouldn't discourage anybody from this. I actually have grown to like the looks of the robot more than I did the Flair, which surprises me. But overall, this is a great little machine. This is a great machine too as well. You'll be happy with either one of them. If you have any other additional questions on this, please let me know. Drop those in the comments below. I'd love to answer any of these. I do this to help you guys and to help you make the decisions without any biasness. I paid full price for both of these things. I ordered this on pre-order, and I ordered this last Christmas because I was tired of waiting around for the 58, so I needed something else to kind of mess around with. I recently just sold the 58, just sold the robot, and it's going off to somebody in Tennessee. So thank you for purchasing this, and I hope it gives you great joy, and I hope you enjoy this a lot. The 58, I don't see this removing from my bar anytime soon unless I drop a couple $1,000s on an espresso machine. The nice thing about both of these versus anything that you have to plug in outside of a Flair, the nice thing about manual is you get so much control over the shot of espresso. I believe both of these will be a lot better than a Ranchillo Silvia or some of the ones that even have dual boilers in there, because you can control the flow rate of pressure, which really makes you be able to adjust the shots and give so much flow control over any machine that's really out there, outside of the Decent and some other ones like that, the Lit Bianca, things like that. It's going to be really hard to find a machine that's going to compare to the shot quality of both of these. And right now, as I'm filming this, I have a $1,700 machine in the background, and I think I'm going to prefer the shots over this, even though I haven't done a ton of testing with it. So again, I hope you like this video, and thank you so much for watching, and please like and subscribe.